Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Glad you could all make it. I'm going to say this again at the end of the show, but happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas, however you choose to say it this weekend or this coming Monday. Christmas Eve would be this weekend. But anyway, just get that out of the way to start with, and then I'll say it again at the end of the show because I really mean it. I really mean it. So, as usual, let's get started with the patron and member questions. This is what I always do in the first part of the show. So if you are watching live and you have something that you want me to pay attention to in the live chat, please hold on to it until later once I get through all of the pre-submitted questions. And then I will turn my full attention to the live chat for the rest of the show. But before we can do that, we got to do this. So let's start with the patron and member questions. And the first one is from Brian Baker, not related to the baker who asked the question about trans people last time. Well, thanks for the clarification, Brian. I know it's such a rare name. You just sort of assume all the people with the last name Baker are close relatives. Steve, thanks for the work. I really appreciate everything you do on the channel. 2 questions this week. First, what did you think of the Monk movie and the finale of the Frasier revival? Next, what are your thoughts on the verdict in the Giuliani defamation case? And do you think it will do any good? It didn't work on Alex Jones. Thanks. 3 questions, cleverly disguised as 2 questions. I liked the Monk movie. I just watched that yesterday, actually. I thought that the solution to the mystery was clever, but also simple. It wasn't too super convoluted or anything. It was a simple, clean explanation. And that part of it worked for me very well. It was really funny, especially with the gallows humor. There's a lot of really dark gallows humor all through it. So I enjoyed that. The cast was great. It was nice to see the cast again. And Tony Shalhoub particularly was hilarious and sharp and just right as Monk. And so I liked it a lot. The only thing, I thought the ending was a little sentimental, was a little maudlin. I mean, it didn't spoil the movie for me, but it was just like, okay, it's a little saccharine. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, okay, that's fine, I guess. Yeah, I know what they were aiming for, something beautiful and something kind of transcendent and, like a big moment, and for me, it came off as not, as treacly, but other than that, I thought it was good. And the finale of the Frasier revival, I thought it was okay. I mean, in my opinion of it was pretty much in line with my opinion of the Frasier revival overall, which is it's mostly fine. Like, I don't think it's not good enough to justify its existence apart from the commercial reason for its existence. But at the same time, it's not so bad that I wish they just hadn't done it. It's fine. It's funny, not as funny as the original show, but it's not terrible. So I thought it was fine. And what are your thoughts on the Giuliani defamation verdict? I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with what you're hinting at here. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's awesome that he's been, ordered to pay that much money, $148 million. And I think it's also fantastic that he's such a fucking numbskull that the first thing he did after that decision was handed down is go right outside to the press and defame the same 2 people again. So they sued him again. So now he's being sued by the same 2 people for the same reason, because he can't keep his fucking mouth shut. He just can't stop lying about them and slandering them in public. So I think the whole thing is great. But yeah, I don't hold out any hope that it will. I mean, I would love to believe that it would just bury Giuliani, that he'll just be a complete non-entity for however much longer the rest of his life is. But Alex Jones is a good example. I mean, Alex Jones, lost a major defamation case and was ordered to pay the people that, he had slandered and defamed millions of dollars. And he's still out there doing his thing and has boasted publicly on his show about how he's not going to pay the money and those families aren't going to see a dime. So, I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully, in the fullness of time, both Alex Jones and Rudy Giuliani are forced to actually, pay, or at least make some attempt to pay what they owe these people. But am I going to hold my breath and wait for it to happen? No. But it sure would be nice, wouldn't it? It sure would be nice. David Colby live tweeting from Quark's bar. Hey. You're also in the chat, though, David. So are you at Quark's right now? Is that what you're saying? Does live tweeting mean right this second, or when you sent in this question? Or both? Are you just hanging out at Deep Space Nine all week? Anyway, they should have let Quark and Grilka stay married. If the writers of Deep Space Nine weren't inveterate cowards, fools, knaves, blackguards, reprobates, ne'er-do-wells, and utter flim-flam artists, they would have, too. You know what's the best thing ever, Steve? Fake marriages that become real marriages. What's even better is a romantic relationship being used to deepen and expand the characterization of not just the people, but the cultures they represent. The House of Quark is easily my favorite Klingon episode. And you know why, Steve? Because it's actually about land deeds and who gets to collect whose taxes, which is what 99% of all real aristocratic drama is actually about. This is just an aside, but the way all the Starfleet characters treat Quark is bizarre to me. Sisko literally threatens Quark's nephew with deportation and imprisonment for a misdemeanor to explicitly blackmail Quark into staying. Then when Quark stays and does exactly what Sisko says he wants, they all yell at him? Well, yeah, because that's fun and that's funny and that's enjoyable to watch because it's a TV show. You don't want Quark to be on top of the world. You don't want Quark to be the most popular guy in school. Quark needs to be kind of underhanded and kind of a scumbag, but also secretly, that he's like a good person inside, that he has a conscience and he has a heart. But he also needs to be an underdog. Like he needs to be a little bit downtrodden. Quarks can't be the most happening joint in the galaxy. It has to be kind of a dump, for his character to work. And he needs to be sort of low on the pecking order in terms of the people on the station. So I think he needs to be looked down on and sort of, talked down to and mistreated to a certain degree, not mistreated to the point that it becomes uncomfortable to watch, but, just kind of given the side eye by most of the other people on the station, most of the more reputable people on the station, because that's what makes his character work. And I think The House of Quark is a great episode. I think it for completely different reasons. I think it might be my favorite Klingon episode as well. It's certainly my favorite Klingon episode of Deep Space Nine. But what I like about it is that it treats Klingon culture and the whole Klingon thing as a joke. It makes jokes out of it, which I like because it's ridiculous. That's why I love that line. When at the end when Quark comes in, for the showdown in the council chambers. And he steps up and introduces himself and says, "I am Quark, son of Keldar, house of, I've come to challenge, what's his name? House of whatever, or son of whoever." Like he just totally blows it off like it means nothing to him. And that irreverence on the part of the character, but also on the part of the show, and they also make fun of the Klingons by, there's when Quark comes in with, all of like the actuarial tables and all the financial records. And you have that shot of Gowron, like, staring cross-eyed at the pad, trying to understand what kind of point Quark is making. And then he just throws it aside because a Klingon warrior does not care about finances and money, I love all of that because it makes light of the Klingon stuff instead of asking us to take it seriously, despite how utterly over the top and ridiculous it is. So I appreciate that. I enjoy that. Yes, it is also about, collecting taxes and stuff, and yeah, I mean, that is what real aristocratic drama tends to be about. But that to me was just part of the joke. I didn't that how I feel about world building. I couldn't give less. You say, using a romantic relationship to, hang on a second. Had to push the cough button. that the romantic relationship is used to deepen the culture they represent. I couldn't give less of a fuck about the culture. It's a made up alien culture. I've said this before. I don't give a fuck about the aliens in Star Trek. I don't give a fuck about their cultures. I don't give a fuck about how realistic they are. Unless it is done that way to serve a story, right? If you can tell a great story where Klingon culture is a total cliche and it's one dimensional, but it's a great story, do that. If you can tell a great story and within that story, Klingon culture is a deep, rich, realistic thing, yeah, fine. Knock yourself out as long as it's a good story. I don't give a fuck. So I don't really connect to it in that way. But yes, I do agree that romance and love and even sex can and should be used to, as parts of storytelling, as parts of characterization, as parts of, and I hate to use this term, but world building, and I hate to use it because it's been grossly misused, in recent years by writers who think that's the fucking point instead of telling a story. Like I don't want to see you play with your Legos. Okay, that's what that is to me. It's when a writer like throws a bunch of their world building into a story that doesn't need to be there, or that would be better off just kind of in the background somewhere. It's like, okay, you made a thing with your Legos and you want me to and you want to show it to me. It has nothing to do with anything, but you made it and you're proud of it and you want to and you want people to see it. You're not a writer at that point. You're a child playing with Legos. I don't give a fuck about the thing you made with your Legos. Tell me a story. But anyway, I went off on my own little sidetrack there. But yeah, House of Quark is a good episode. We agree on that. It's one of the best Klingon episodes. We agree on that. We have our different reasons for believing that. I don't know if I think that Quark and Grilka should have stayed married. I think it's better for Quark not to have a wife on the station. And Grilka is a great character, but I like that we only see her, like, I think twice in the series. I don't think she's a character that we need to see every episode or be like a regular recurring character like Rom or Nog. I think the way they used Grilka in the show was just fine. But she was a terrific character, and her interactions with Quark were wonderful. Steve. Hi, Steve. Let's imagine you're having a Festivus dinner with Donald Trump tomorrow for some reason. Can you please do the airing of grievances and just really lay into him? I mean, okay. It's just for this year. So what has he done this year? Donald Trump, I got a lot of problems with you. How many times have you been indicted this year? 91 indictments. You come here expecting to sit down and have a nice Festivus dinner with the rest of us. 91 indictments. And then what do? You go out on the campaign trail. You quote Hitler. You quote Hitler repeatedly and then say, well, maybe Hitler said it, but I said it in a different way. We both said the same thing, but he meant something else. You keep quoting Hitler. What are you trying to do? I think I know what you're trying to do, and that's my biggest grievance of all with you. You know what, Trump? Fuck you. Fuck everything you stand for. Fuck everything you tried to do before. Fuck everything you would try to do if you get elected next time. Fuck your whole fascist thing. And now it's time for the feats of strength part of Festivus. So Trump, you're up. Until you pin me, Festivus is not over. Let's rumble. Something like that. And by the way, that means basically Festivus would never be over, because there ain't no way Trump would lay a goddamn finger on me. You think Trump would? You think if I wrestled Donald Trump? I mean, I'm not even like a wrestler. I'm not an athlete. I'm not a trained wrestler at all, right? I know a couple of holds, and I mean like legitimate, like shoot holds, not like pro wrestling stuff. I mean, I know a couple of holds. I used to wrestle with friends when I was a teenager, right? I have no wrestling experience. I would fucking destroy Donald Trump. I would stretch him like a goddamn Lycra belt. Do they have those? Maybe I should have said elastic. I would stretch him like I would stretch him like sourdough. Something that you stretch. I would stretch him like the stretch is the active verb here. That's what you call it when a wrestler like fucking just, really works somebody over. They stretched him. That's what I would do. Anyway. Brian McKinley, hello, Steve. I wanted to take a moment to tell you that I really enjoy your channel and the videos you make. Your takes on Trek are thoughtful, well-reasoned, and entertaining, even the ones I disagree with. Lower Decks rules. It's always the Lower Decks people. Likewise, your political and social content is refreshingly honest and direct. Your opinions are genuine, and we can see that. Anyway, now that I've thoroughly embarrassed you, here's my question. How do you think the next generation and spin offs would have been different if Picard had been killed off in Best of Both Worlds Part 2? If you think there's too much to unpack, feel free to do a video on the topic. Happy holidays. I did a video on it already. I think it was last year. Yeah, I think last year I did a video about what if they had not rescued Captain Picard from the Borg, and how would it have been different? And yeah, it's a really fun what if, because it would have changed the show profoundly in some ways, but I'm kind of curious to see that show. Like I can imagine myself wanting to watch that show. Let's say that they write Picard off, that he gets taken by the Borg and they don't bring him back, like he's just killed off, or maybe he does come back, but the physical and emotional trauma is such that he leaves Starfleet. So even though the Picard character is still around out there somewhere, he's no longer on the show. Either way, Captain Riker. Captain Riker of the USS Enterprise. And I'm not saying the show would have been better, because I don't know that. That show never existed. But the prospect of it is appealing to me. And some of this is even further into what if territory than it would ordinarily be, because like I'm kind of also asking, like, what if Next Generation as a show was written a little more like Deep Space Nine, where characters were allowed to have more enduring characterization? Because my first thought is, oh, that's such an interesting place to take Riker as a character. You're in season 5, so you're more than halfway through the show, assuming that it would still run the 7 years. And now you have Riker bumped up to captain. Now he's not, second in command. He's not the cool, approachable, like big brother character, that you go to when you need to talk to the captain, but you can bring it to Riker because, he's not quite as severe as Picard. He's not quite as intimidating as Picard. He's your buddy, and now he would have to go from that role to the guy in charge. How would that change Riker? How would that change his character? How would that change how he relates to the other members of the crew, who he was always kind of in charge of, because he's second in command, but now he's the captain now. How would that change his relationships with the other people on the ship? Would he find himself having to separate himself from the crew the way Picard did? Or would he make a point of not doing that? And of being a much more approachable captain than Picard was. Like, there's all sorts of ways you could go in terms of Riker's character, and ways you could explore that. And then there's just the mileage you could get out of personnel changes on the ship. Who would be his first officer? And I talk about this in the video. Who would be his first officer? And what are the story implications of that? What if he makes an unconventional choice as first officer? What if he doesn't choose Data or Geordi or Worf? What if he chooses Troy? What if he says, you know what? Deanna Troi is a lieutenant commander by rank, and she is my oldest and most trusted friend on this ship. And she is a very competent officer who is capable of so much more than we've seen her do on the series so far. And I am choosing her to be my first officer because she is my most trusted friend and advisor. And I want her by my side as my second in command. And I have absolute faith that she can do that. And what if that, and then you have that dynamic on the show, and that gives Troy somewhere to go interesting with her character as well. So like I'm not saying it would have been better, and I'm not saying I wish they had done that, because I like the way TNG turned out, and I think seasons 5 and 6 of TNG with Picard there are some of the best years the show ever had. Season 7, not so much, but all good things. Fantastic finale. And there are 1 or 2 good episodes in there in season 7 as well, even though overall the season is pretty weak. But it would have been a very different show. And it is an intriguing hypothetical to try and imagine the back half of TNG, plus the movies and all the other stuff that came after, with Picard not in the picture and with Riker pushed up into that leading role. I have no doubt that Jonathan Frakes could have handled it as an actor. I think the cast itself would have been fine in terms of performance. but the writing and the unfolding of the story from that point forward, there's so many really interesting possibilities. So, but I did do a video about it. So if you're that interested, check out the Trek Actually playlist and look for that video, because I go into a lot more detail, and I'm much more coherently in that than I have been doing just now. Thinking Cat, have you watched the classic Superman series from the 1950s? As I'd recommend rewatching it, as there's some pretty good jokes and humor and thriller plots. I'm also a fan of Peter Gunn, which is like a TV version of film noir. It is odd how black and white can make a set look less cheap. Like if you get Disney Plus, Steve, you can watch Doctor Who, and I do recommend taking a look at 1960s Who. Maybe 2024 could be the Shives year of classic TV and film, as there's so many of the morning matinees you could cover, as especially Spy Smasher, Captain Marvel, and the two Batman serials. You can make lots of comparisons to modern DC movie and TV output. Just a suggestion. I'd also recommend the British show The Avengers, especially the John Steed and Mrs. Peel series is really interesting and worth a look. I love the 1950s Superman. I assume you mean the George Reeves show. That's the only 1950s Superman series I can think of. I love the Adventures of Superman, the 1950s George Reeves Superman. It's one of my favorite versions of the character. I have it on DVD. I've seen every episode, and I've seen several of them multiple times. I love that show, and I love that take on Superman, and I love George Reeves as Superman. So yes, I have watched it. I'm a huge fan of it. I did a video about it. I did a couple videos about it in the Best Superman Ever series this past year. I really like the George Reeves Superman. I've never seen Peter Gunn, although I have heard of it. And I have seen the Captain Marvel serial. I don't think I've seen Spy Smasher, but I have seen both Batman. I own those as well. I have DVDs of the two Batman serials, the one from 43 and the one from 48. I may do a video about them at some point, but I would have to think about what that video would be. Neither one of them would qualify for Best Batman Ever because they're both really bad. But there are points of interest in them that I might be able to find and come up with a video topic out of that. But I have nothing planned for it right now. And what else? I've never watched The Avengers. I remember it being on TV in reruns when I was a kid. But I never watched it. And Doctor Who. So I've seen a little tiny bit of classic Doctor Who. They used to play it every weekend on PBS, and it was usually the Tom Baker years. So I saw some of that when I was a kid, but I really have very little memory of it. I have been watching the revival the last couple of months. I started watching it a couple years ago, and then I watched the first series, the Christopher Eccleston series, and I thought it was good. And then I just kind of put it down and never got back to it. And then like a couple years after that, I watched the first David Tennant series. And then again, the same kind of thing happened where I just was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I stopped watching it and never got back to it. And now just recently I've gotten back into it, and I'm almost through the David Tennant tenure of it. I'm in, that would be what, series 4, series 5 of the revival. I'm almost to the end of that. And then that final group of Christmas specials that David Tennant did before he regenerated and handed it off to Matt Smith. So I'm almost at the end of the Tennant era, of the new Doctor Who, and I like it. I mean, I can't, I won't say that I think it's one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen in my entire life, but I like it. I enjoy it, and there are parts of it that I really enjoy. I really enjoy the way that, again, at least in the episodes that I've seen so far. It may change as the show goes on and creative teams come and go and all that stuff, like any other long running show like that. But so far, I have really enjoyed the way that the writers have been able to balance standalone stories with larger story arcs. And this series that I'm watching right now, the one as we get close to the end of Tennant's run, there are 2 or 3 little threads that they have kept going throughout the season, like the recurring presence of Rose and I've just gotten to the episodes where Rose actually does come back and she's like a character in the story. But there have been those little, every couple episodes before that, there's like a little moment where you catch a glimpse of Rose in the background, or her face pops up on a TV screen and the doctor doesn't notice it or something like that. And it's just something to remind you, oh, hey, this is a thing. Something's coming. Just wait, and also like with the mentions of the bees, every episode or almost every episode, somebody will make some passing reference to the bees are disappearing, and it comes up again and again. And it has nothing to do with the story that you're watching right now, but it's just a thing that a character will say to remind you, okay, remember this, something's coming, just wait. And to me, that is the best way to do television storytelling. The episode you're watching right now is the most important thing, and that should have a story that starts when the episode starts and ends and gives you closure when the episode ends, right? But you should also have things that go from episode to episode in terms of characterization, in terms of subplots, whatever. That's the way to do it, in my opinion, instead of heavily serializing everything. So instead of having complete episodes, you have chapters that don't really hold up on their own. You have to watch the entire thing for it to make sense or for it to mean anything. I really don't think that's a very good way of telling stories on television, whether it's a streaming model or whether it's a, one episode a week. I just think, to a certain degree, form should dictate content. And if your form is a series of 1 hour, let's say, episodes, then you should tell your story or stories in a way that matches that format. So if I have an hour per time, right? If I have a series of hour-long segments that will be presented to the audience as separate segments, then I need to tell separate stories within those segments. But because I also want the series to be cohesive, I want to string things along, and weave things through the episodes, and set things up and pay things off. But anyway, I've talked about that ad nauseum in other videos and probably will in the future. But yes, I haven't watched much classic Doctor Who, but I've watched several seasons now of the revival Doctor Who, and I've been enjoying it. John, President of Anarchism. I love that. Which Star Trek movie is the best Christmas movie? Star Trek 4. Thank you for a brief and simply answered question. The answer is Star Trek 4. Jim Baker, mea culpa. You were right, I was wrong. And the answer as to why turns out to be mundane. I was duped by a well-executed propaganda campaign. Since the Leah Thomas contro, my newsfeed has been inundated with an avalanche of sensationalist headlines, none of which I ever clicked, but which insipidly painted a false narrative in my mind as to the size and scope of the problem. Upon further research, exactly as you said, there was a lack of evidence to support those claims. If the premise of unfairness fails, the entire argument collapses, and with it any objection disappears. I am a sincere seeker of the truth. I am as eager to jettison my indefensible beliefs as I am to protect my defensible ones. My biggest problem lies in the fact that I can't see my own mistakes in reasoning. I need intelligent feedback, such as you provided, in order to recognize where I have erred. Now that I have recanted from my heresy, can you please unblock me from the public chat? I do value having a voice in the conversation. Well, first of all, respect to you for saying that, for not only for, the mea culpa, whatever. Like, I don't expect people, if I like, read somebody the riot act, I don't expect them to come crawling back so I can bestow them with forgiveness. Like, that's nice. Thank you. But I don't expect that. And I don't ask for that. What impresses me is that you actually went and did some research on your own, and, which, let's be honest, you probably should have done first, but whatever, better late than never. And you saw that actually, you were wrong. There was no evidence for the things you were saying. And you said, okay, I was wrong. I'll change my mind. I think that's great. I applaud you for that. And I applaud you for writing me a message on Patreon, and also submitting this question to do like a public, hey, my bad, I was wrong. Because you didn't have to do that. And, I was kind of rough on you. Like you say, I gave you intelligent feedback. I would like to think I did do that, but I also kind of ripped you an asshole in that response. So I appreciate you coming back after that. with this. So I commend you for that. And I did not block you from the chat. It's possible one of my moderators blocked you from the chat. And if they did, based on what you said in your previous question, I think that was completely justified. But I messaged you about this already on Patreon, so maybe we've already taken care of this. I just haven't checked my messages, but I messaged you about it privately on Patreon because I would be happy to unblock you. I just need to know what your YouTube handle is, because I'm the way the YouTube studio works. Like, I guess I could scroll through all of the countless people that I have blocked from my channel in order to find you, but it would be so much easier and so much more reliable if you would just, reply to the message I sent you or email me or whatever, contact me in private in whatever way. And just let me know, just send me a link to your YouTube page. And I can, then once I have that, I can unblock you, which I would be happy to do. Yeah. Good, like I said, good for you for, checking into it and upon discovering that you were wrong, being thoughtful enough to admit it. I think that's a very important quality to have. Black Cover 95, who wishes you a Merry Christmas. In Steve and Stuffy Weren't Invited, Joff the Sea Lion lists a number of right-wing figures he admires. I've replayed the scene several times, but I still can't make out the last name he mentions. Who is that? So I looked this up earlier, and I went back to the scripts for those episodes, and I found what I believe is the moment you're referring to, where Joff lists a bunch of imaginary right-wing people. It's called it's the Stuffy version, the Stuffyverse version of the intellectual dark web. In the episode, it's called The Enlightenment in Exile. And the last name in that list, the one that you're referring to, is Marcos Anuitos. Marcos Anuitos. And I can't remember who that's a reference to. It was a joke. It was meant to be like a gag at the expense of one of the actual intellectual dark web people, but I can't think of who it was. So if there's a Greek one, maybe it's that. I can't remember, but it was there. The name is Marcos Anuitos. John Burns, 1968, Johnson goes to New Hampshire and wins, but then withdraws as he didn't feel he won by enough. So tell me about the My Lai massacre and how something that happened 4 days after the New Hampshire primary, when Johnson won nearly 50%, led to Johnson leaving the nomination race. He couldn't have expected Bobby Kennedy to be assassinated, right? Or did it push the My Lai story off the newsreels? A terrible thing to happen to history and reality? I have no idea what Johnson's thought process was that went into him deciding not to run in 68. So I don't know if it had anything to do with the My Lai massacre or, the result in New Hampshire, not that he felt like he didn't win. I have no idea. A terrible thing to happen to history. Yeah, I think, as many problems as Johnson had as president, especially in terms of Vietnam, I think that's the great stain on his presidency. As bad as that was, and as imperfect a president as Johnson was, I don't see how anybody can argue that he would not, that 4 more years of Johnson would not have been vastly preferable to Richard fucking Nixon. Like, of course, it would have been better for Johnson to be the president, beginning in January of 1969 than it would have been for Richard Nixon. Yes, absolutely. It was a terrible thing to happen to history. Richard Nixon being president was a bad thing. Lyndon Johnson being president for 4 more years would have been a less bad thing. Agent Meister, who can't believe it was this time 25 years ago when he saw Star Trek Insurrection in theaters. Wow, me too, I guess, because I saw it in theaters as well. Yeah. Me too. Insurrection buddies. No, wait. No, not that. No. Not that. Paldor Joy, Steve, 2024 looms, and I'm thinking about asking my company for a raise. I think I've earned it, and I've hinted to my supervisors that I'd leave if I didn't get it. It's a bluff. I probably won't leave at all, but do they know that? They probably do. In fact, they probably know that I probably wouldn't leave, but they can't certainly know. The more I think about it, though, they probably certainly know that I probably wouldn't. Then again, even though they probably certainly know that I probably wouldn't, they don't certainly know that, although I probably wouldn't. There is no probability that I certainly would. So you see my problem. It is, as the guy with the ears once said, fascinating. Also, this Ask Away goes out on my 42nd birthday, so you can tell everyone in the chat to leave all my cards and presents at the door on their way out, and you yourself can fuss and fawn over me for however long is left in this stream. Thank you for a great year of content, and happy Christmas. Happy Christmas to you, and happy birthday, you youngin'. You little whippersnapper. A whole year younger than me. 42. I remember 42 because it was last year. And it was pretty much the same as 43. Not a big difference. But anyway, happy birthday. And good luck with the raise. I hope you get it. I think you probably will. Connor Carlisle, the cinephile. Hello there, Steve. Last time you talked about Darth Vader and his redemption arc and how it somewhat falls flat. Are there any other characters that you think got redeemed who didn't truly deserve it? I mean, I could stay in Star Wars and say fucking Kylo Ren. Although with Kylo Ren, it's not so much that he didn't deserve it. It's just that I feel like that was just such a bad creative choice for that character. It's not, I mean, I don't know if he deserved it or not. He seemed like he did some pretty evil stuff. I mean, he was in charge of the Empire or the First Order. He seemed like he was a pretty bad dude there for a while. And he killed Han Solo. That's pretty bad. He killed some other people. He did some pretty bad things. So maybe he didn't deserve the redemption in like a moral sense, but I know he didn't deserve it in a character sense because it was like, oh, I guess he's just a good guy now. I guess he's a good guy because some of the weirdo fans wanted to see that, right? Some of the Kylo Ray shippers who just could not fucking let it go. They got what they wanted. But no, are there other characters you think got redeemed who don't truly deserve it? I mean, I'm sure there are examples, but I can't think of any off the top of my head right now. Which was also the problem with the question last time. No examples like jump immediately to mind. So no, unfortunately, I cannot think of other characters that got redeemed who didn't deserve. But if I think of any, I will let you know. But I'm not going to think of any because I'm probably not going to think about it after the show is over. Kiri Christmas. At this time of year, we get the inevitable remakes for classic films, especially Scrooge. Which Starfleet crew would make the best Scrooge/Christmas film themed episode? P.S. Santa is a Q. Warm hugs to those that will be alone this time of year. I hope it helps that someone is thinking of them. Well, if Santa is going to be a Q, then it's got to be TNG. I mean, because the only Q worth a shit was Q, the original Q. I mean, Q from the Quinn from Death Wish was good. He's kind of a one-off character. You know what I'm saying? He's not coming back. At least he's not coming back if I'm writing the fucking show. So if Scrooge is, or if Santa is a Q, then it's got to be the Q, the John Delancey Q. And so therefore it's got to be TNG. And if we're going to have Santa appear and we're also going to do a Christmas Carol, which I know you didn't necessarily say in your question, but let's just say, fuck it. It's a Christmas Carol and also Santa is in it and it's Q. Then, you've got Patrick Stewart as Scrooge right there. He was a great Scrooge. Actually, in the stage version, the one-man show he did of it, he was a great everybody. So maybe that could be the premise. Maybe Q as Santa, maybe Q dresses up as Santa Claus and pops up in Picard's ready room one day and says, guess what? It's Christmas back on Earth. And your Christmas present is you get to play every character in the classic story of Christmas Carol. And then Captain Picard is forced by Q to act out a one-person version of a Christmas Carol for the duration of the episode. So it's not really a Starfleet crew. It's just Captain Picard being forced to do Patrick Stewart's one-man show about A Christmas Carol. I would go with that. Stephen G. Clenard. Hey, Steve, have you ever watched Space 1999? And if so, what is your assessment? I just watched it for the first time, and it was okay. It's basically what you might expect if you combined Star Trek TOS and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Kubrick threatened to sue. Created by the couple best known for kiddie shows featuring creepy marionettes and action figures, and starring a power couple fresh off Mission Impossible, the decidedly non-puppet-like Martin Landau and the occasionally wooden but lovely Barbara Bain. The largest budget of any UK production at the time, and you've got a pretty decent show if you can get past the ludicrous premise for one season. Put notorious series killer Fred Freiberger in charge, and you get a second and final season that more closely resembles a steaming pile of dog shit, such is life. Yeah, poor Fred. You know, I mean, not poor Fred, poor shows that Fred Freiberger was hired to be in charge of. I have only seen one or two episodes. I remember watching it occasionally back in the 90s when they showed it on the Sci-Fi Channel, back when the Sci-Fi Channel was actually the Sci-Fi Channel. And I guess it didn't grab me at the time. I would be interested to go back and check it out now, though, because as you point out, the premise is utterly ludicrous. The premise of Space 1999 is utterly ludicrous. And once I went back and I was looking something up about it in the last few years, I hadn't thought about it in forever. And I read the Wikipedia article about Space 1999, and I got to what the premise of the show was. And I was like, that's what it's about? That's so crazy. I kind of want to watch it now. So I may go back and try to find it somewhere and watch it if I get time here and there over the next, how much longer am I going to live? Let's say the next 40 years. You know, because the ludicrosity, the ludicrousness of the premise is something that I actually find intriguing. Oasis, hey Steve. As you may or may not know, YouTuber H Bomber Guy released a video recently centered around video essayists and plagiarism. A lot of it centered around now disgraced YouTuber James Somerton. Somerton did essays on LGBTQ issues, and it turned out he plagiarized them. I know Jesse Gender covered it as well, but I was wondering how you feel about the situation. Do you ever get the feeling about any of your work being derivative? How would you handle that? Cheers and have a happy Monday. I talked about this last time because H-Bomb's video had come out already. I did watch H-Bomber Guy's video. I started watching it the day he released it, and I had it playing continuously, and it just finished about 5 minutes before I went on the air today. It's a long video, is what I'm saying. A very long video, a much, much, much too long video, but at the same time, an excellent video. And obviously he did a lot of good work, especially in exposing Somerton, which needed to happen and was utterly richly deserved. So, you know, I applaud H-Bomb for doing that. And think he's one of the good ones. He's one of the bright stars in the YouTube firmament. I wish there would be more, I wish there were more H-Bomber guys, and I wish they would all make shorter videos, because no, don't stop. If you're thinking I'm going to make a 4-hour video, just don't. But my griping about the runtime aside, it was an excellent video, and like I said, covered a very important topic. And I think I said this last time, Somerton had it coming. He fucked up. He did that shit. The evidence is overwhelming from the H-Bomber Guy video. Like, he was completely guilty. There's no way he didn't do it. There's no way he didn't do it. He did it. It was wrong. It was terrible. It was inexcusable. It was lazy and immoral and, theft. He deserves to be burned to the ground over it. And that's what it seems has happened. And good. Fuck him. Do I ever get the feeling about my work being derivative? No, not really. I mean, it's always going to be derivative to a certain point, and it was always going to be derivative from a certain perspective. I mean, I'm not the only YouTuber who makes videos where the format is me standing in front of a background, talking to a camera, and basically narrating a video essay that is illustrated by graphics or clips or whatever. Like, I mean, everybody does that. That's a well-established format on YouTube. So it's not terribly original in that way. And, there are other people who do videos about Star Trek. You mentioned one of the best ones, Jesse Gender, who also makes videos that are just absurdly too long and need to be shortened drastically. But nevertheless, she's brilliant. She's great. And she talks about Star Trek a lot. And, so do a lot of other great people. So I'm not the only one doing that either. And there will always, I guess, be some crossover, and some similarities. And that's fine. Like, that's not the problem. That's not plagiarism. Similarity is not plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you outright copy someone else's words or someone else's work or whatever, and you present it as though it was your own. And I have never done that, and I never will do that. I would be embarrassed to show my face in public if I did that. That's the most uncreative thing you could possibly do. I would just not make YouTube videos if that was the only choice I had. Fortunately, it's not, because I actually have a creative bone or two in my body, unlike James Somerton, and I don't need to copy other people's shit to make good videos. I can do it all by myself. I can write the words all by myself. But no, I don't worry about it. And I don't worry about my work being derivative either, because even though it is derivative to a certain extent based on the factors I just mentioned, and just, unavoidable similarities in terms of form and presentation style. My stuff is so utterly out of my brain. Like, I don't focus group my stuff. When I'm writing a video, I don't stop and think how people are going to react to it. I don't make videos for a particular audience. I don't make videos to, please a particular segment of the audience. I do things that I think are interesting. I tell jokes that I think are funny. I explore questions that I think have compelling answers or would provide compelling reasons to go down a path and talk about things and think about things. Like, it's all out of my brain, which doesn't make it original, because it's not. I mean, I talk about things a lot of other people talk about, but I talk about them from my point of view and my perspective, focusing on the things that I think are important, which gives them a hopefully unique and interesting flavor that is just mine. And I feel like as long as I do that, and as long as anybody doing this does that for themselves, then you don't have to worry about your work being derivative. I mean, there will always be people. There are certain people who flatten everything out and look at everything literally, and they'll say like, oh, you did a video about Star Trek 4. So-and-so did a video about Star Trek 4 last year. You must have copied him. And no, but if all you see is, oh, dude made a video about Star Trek 4, you might think, oh, it's derivative. But with me, that's certainly not the case, because I don't, I don't watch that much YouTube. Like, I don't even see most of this shit that I could be derivative of it if I wanted to. It's not something I worry about. It's not something I worry about. I worry about writing my videos and shooting my videos and editing my videos and making them the best that I can possibly make them. I don't get distracted or hung up on if I'm being derivative, and I don't worry about plagiarizing, because I have never had the desire to do that. And I know how to cite sources and how to indicate quotes. So if I am citing someone else's content, I know how to make that clear to my audience that that's what I'm doing and that's what I intend to do, because I'm not a fucking hack. General Contact Unit Problem Child, do you think it's ever ethical to buy a purpose-bred pure breed dog? My favorite dog breed is the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. My current dog, Rusty, is a pure breed Staffy Bull, but I didn't have to go to a breeder to get him. His mother belonged to some shitty owners who had two unneutered Staffy Bulls, and when one predictably impregnated the other, they abandoned her rather than deal with the consequences. Rusty is one of the pups she gave birth to in the shelter. The thing is, I'm unlikely to get that lucky again. So if I ever wanted another similar pup, I'd probably have to go to a breeder, and I'm not sure I can ethically justify that just because I'd like a puppy that looks a particular way. Like Staffies aren't as bad as like pugs, but they do often suffer from breathing issues because of their slightly squashed heads, and I kind of don't think I could support intentionally breeding animals with health issues. Okay, well then don't. Then get another kind of dog. Like I don't see how this is a problem. Like there are so many different kinds of dogs. If you have an ethical problem, and it seems like you have the problem. You're not asking me, do I think it's right or wrong to do that? You're telling me you have a pre-existing ethical concern. You worry that it's not right to go to a breeder and get a dog because by doing that you are facilitating the perpetuation of that breeding system and the creation of dogs that that have sort of inborn health issues. And plus you're adopting a dog from a breeder instead of a dog from a shelter, who might be facing euthanasia or whatever. Like you have the problem already in here that you're grappling with. So if the question is, should I get another dog from a breeder, because I'm not sure if I should, because I don't think I could support doing that. Well, then don't. You've answered the question for yourself already. Then don't. Adopt a dog from a shelter. I think that, and as I would presume you agree, that's the more morally acceptable thing to do anyway. I think it's always better to adopt a dog from a shelter than to get one from a breeder or from a pet store. Not that dogs from breeders or dogs from pet stores don't also deserve to be adopted and to be, homed to a loving family. That's why if someone, if someone I know bought a dog and I found out they got the dog from a pet store instead of a shelter, I probably would not say a single fucking thing to them about it. And if I happened to be in a pet store or at a breeder's kennel or whatever, and I was in the market for a dog, which I am not, but if I was, or I was open to the idea of adopting a dog, and I happened to see a dog in one of those less desirable systems that I made an emotional connection to, and it seemed like that was my dog, I would not tie myself up in ethical knots. Oh, gee, but can I really adopt this dog because it comes from a breeder or it comes from a pet store? And I don't believe in it. I wouldn't tie myself in knots and be all fucking neurotic about it. I would just get the dog. And I would sleep like a baby at night because I would have the dog I wanted. But I agree. It's better to get from a shelter. It's better not to support breeders. It's better not to support, and you didn't mention pet stores, but I brought that into it. It's better not to support that kind of thing if you can help it. It seems like you already know that it's a problem for you. So just don't do it. Like, get a dog somewhere else. It's easy. There's lots of them. Get a dog somewhere else if you're looking for another dog. All some random geek wants for Christmas is the end of capitalism, the state, and the kyriarchy. Well, good luck with that. I hope you wrote to Santa about it. As of Thursday, Joanna Roberts has negative $137 in her account. She has said, I've got no fucking clue how I'm making it through this month. Her hole got filled, so it is not just me. And she still needs money for food, pills, rent, and bills. Phoenix needs about $675 to pay off all their bills and back rent, and still needs money for food, cat stuff, and cleaning supplies. If their GoFundMe gets filled, 4,356 out of 10K, they'll finally have hope for the future and the will to continue on. Joey Fire Lame Deer is most likely going to be homeless unless their GoFundMe is filled, 1,650 out of 10K. Naz and LQ got hit with a 1K medical bill, as well as having 1K in credit card debt they wish they could pay off before their interest ramps up. Everyone's links are in charity links. Pretty much my friends are hoping for miracles. Steve, do you believe in miracles? How likely will miracles happen for Joanna, Phoenix, Joey, Naz, and LQ? I'm keeping myself poor for them. I don't believe in miracles at all, in any sense, except maybe the rhetorical sense, where if something very unlikely or very fortunate happens, you can characterize it as a miracle, but that's more like that's like a poetic thing. That doesn't mean it was literally a miracle. No, I don't believe in miracles, which I think is your point. right? There are no miracles. It's just what we do for each other. It's how we help each other out. And so if everybody who has thought about it or is capable could go to charitylinks.page and help out the folks, or at least one of the folks that was mentioned in Geek's question, I think that would be fantastic. You know, but there's really not a whole lot else we can do other than if we have the capacity to give, we can give. And hopefully it'll be enough, you know. And I hope that they're okay. I hope they get through the month and the holiday season, and I hope they are better off in the new year. But I mean, and you know, hoping is the same as is the same as, you know, waiting for a miracle. But I don't know what else I can do for it. Isaiah Taylor says, caution, a bad movie that I personally like. So a couple of days ago, I watched the 1998 movie Godzilla. That movie got so much hate, and I could never understand why. My first time seeing it was back in 2000, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't realize that there were other Godzilla movies prior to this. For me, the movie is visually appetizing, but that's about it. It plays as a big, dumb, silly monster flick, but I don't mind it. Hell, I even laughed several times at all those Apache helicopters invading New York City to kill the monster, indicating how goofy and silly this movie is. But again, I love this movie, and I had a crush on Audrey, played by Maria Pitillo. Another movie I saw was 1997's Volcano. Yes, the pitch meeting was, wouldn't it be cool if a volcano erupted right in the middle of Los Angeles? What do you think of both movies, Steve? Sometimes I wish I could just travel back in time just to watch these flicks for the first time on screen. Thoughts? I'm not a big fan of either one, but I can understand why you would appreciate them. Like even though I do not have any particular affection for that version of Godzilla or for Volcano, I do love lots of bad movies. Like we definitely have that in common. There are lots of movies that if I look into my heart of hearts, I can say, oh, this is a bad movie. It's badly acted, it's badly written, it's badly directed, it does everything wrong. But I still love to watch it. I still have a great time when I watch it. I still like it because it's entertaining in spite of itself. It's entertaining in ways that the filmmakers didn't intend it to be, but it still is. So yeah, there are lots of movies that are conventionally judged bad movies that I absolutely adore. So I'm with you on that. Just for me, the 98 Godzilla and Volcano don't happen to be on my list. But there are lots of Godzilla movies on my list. Like Godzilla is one of my favorite things in the world. I actually just watched Shin Godzilla the other day. I had not seen it yet. I missed it when it first came out. I just never had time to get around to watching it. And now that Godzilla -1 is out, and I want to see that too, but I'll wait for that to come out on streaming. And I thought, well, I do kind of want to watch a Godzilla movie. You know, I don't want to go, I'm not going to go to a theater and see Godzilla -1. But I never saw Shin Godzilla. So I'll watch that. And I watch it, and I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. You know, but some of my favorite Godzilla movies are the worst ones. Like, I love Godzilla from the 60s and 70s. I love, like, friendly, good guy, puppy dog face Godzilla. I love Godzilla versus Megalon. Godzilla versus Megalon is a terrible movie, and it is one of my favorite movies ever. I could watch Godzilla versus Megalon right now. I love that movie. It's terrible, but I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's my favorite Godzilla movie. It's one of my favorite so bad it's good movies, period. I adore it. I first saw it when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. It was, I think, the first Godzilla movie I ever saw. I maybe not. Maybe I saw Godzilla on TV. I saw like a Godzilla movie on TV, and my grandparents saw that I liked Godzilla. And so my grandparents got me Godzilla versus Megalon on VHS. And I had that tape, and I just watched it over and over. Like when I was a little kid, I must have watched Godzilla versus Megalon. I don't even know how many times. And it's carved into my brain, you know? So I get it. I get loving movies that aren't, you know, good by standard opinions, but yeah, but for me, that your version of Godzilla and Volcano are not among those for me, but I completely get it. Dana, who is finally on winter break, hooray. Hi, Steve. You watch way more movies than I do. As 2023 comes to a close, I'm wondering which of this year's movies have been your favorites and why. I know you have opinions. Will you share them with us? Well, Dana, I was able to do a little bit of research for this question and really just refresh my own memory because I have seen a lot of movies this year from this year, in addition to movies I've seen this year from other years. And I couldn't necessarily remember them all off the top of my head, even the ones I really liked. So I went back through the list of movies released this year and I picked the ones that were my favorites so I could share them with you. And I'm able to now give a good answer to this question because we did not only did you submit your question earlier, but because we're close and we talk, in private a lot. You told me you were thinking of asking this question, so it gave me a little bit of time to think about it. And then when it came time to actually submit the question, you didn't fuck me. You didn't fuck me this time with the question like you did last time. So I can give a good answer. So here are some of my favorite movies from this past year. These are roughly in order of when they were released, because that's just how I wrote them down when I was going down the list of movies from this year. So, Megan, the robot best friend killer movie from earlier this year, the killer android, et cetera, really, really funny movie. Great, like dark comedy. And some really funny actors in that one. So I loved Megan. Knock at the Cabin, the Shyamalan movie starring Dave Bautista and others as well. But Dave Bautista was the big recognizable guy in it, and that was really good. Like kind of a prolonged Twilight Zone episode, and there's the scenario at the center of it where it's like you're asked, you're sort of posed the question of, is this real or not? Like, is the thing that we are told is going to happen, is it actually going to happen, or are these people just disturbed fanatics? Like they really generate some real drama and suspense out of that. It's a really well done movie. Cocaine Bear, hilarious. I loved Cocaine Bear. Creed 3. Unfortunately, the co-star has been revealed since the movie came out to be a massive piece of shit. He was just convicted of domestic abuse and lost his job in the MCU. I guess that's what happens. So it has a little bit of a stain on it because of that, because Jonathan Majors is in it. But it's a really, really good movie and shows that there's still life in the Creed series, that the Creed series has been an unexpectedly terrific spin-off of the Rocky movies, and Michael B. Jordan directed this one as well as continuing to star as Creed. It was really good. I liked Creed 3 a lot. Renfield, the horror comedy with Nicholas Hoult as Renfield and Nicolas Cage as Dracula, hilarious. Chevalier, a good historical drama that came out earlier this year that I saw on Hulu over the summer, about based on a true story about a black man who grew up in France in the years leading up to the French Revolution, who becomes a famous musician and artist, and a really interesting historical drama about a character that has not really been given a lot of public attention recently. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I believe was the only movie I actually went to a theater to see this year. And I loved every second of it. And I did a full review video of it when it came out, because it came out on my birthday, and I went to see it as my birthday present to myself, and it was the last Guardians movie, the last James Gunn MCU movie, and I loved it so much. Robots, a really funny comedy about two not very nice people who live in a society where you can where it's illegal, but if you know the right people and have the right amount of money, you can have a robot duplicate of yourself manufactured that is indistinguishable from your real self upon superficial inspection. And they each have robots built of themselves and send the robots out to do their unsavory tasks. Their two robots meet each other and fall in love and run away. It's a really funny movie. Asteroid City, the Wes Anderson movie starring Scarlett Johansson and Jason Schwartzman and Tom Hanks and a whole bunch of other people. If you like Wes Anderson, I think you'll like it. If you don't like Wes Anderson, you won't like it, but I like Wes Anderson and I liked it. It was funny and quirky and very Wes Anderson. They cloned Tyrone, a really funny spoof of blaxploitation movies, like a cross between a blaxploitation movie and a science fiction horror movie. Really, really funny. Really enjoyed that. Barbie, which I just saw the other day that I actually watched with you, Dana. We watched it together, and it was your, I think, second or third time seeing it. It was my first time seeing it. I loved Barbie. I thought Barbie was fantastic. I cannot speak to the other half of Barbenheimer. I have not seen Oppenheimer yet. I'm looking forward to it. I do want to see it at some point. As soon as I see it's available somewhere on streaming, I will check it out. But I haven't seen it yet. But I have seen Barbie, and Barbie was fantastic, smart and funny and thoughtful and pointed at times, surreal and goofy and just beautiful to look at and a delight to watch. I thought Barbie was fantastic. The Killer, baby, the new David Fincher movie that had a very brief run in theaters and then was on Netflix. I saw that as soon as I saw it was available, starring Michael Fassbender as a hired killer whose job is on a job that goes wrong, and then he spends the rest of the movie trying to clean up the mess that he accidentally made. It's a fascinating portrait of a very fascinating and very, very enclosed and private character. Amazing performance by Fassbender. Really one of my favorite fight scenes that I've seen in many years. And just a really great, unconventional action suspense movie. Really good, really good. And finally, and my favorite movie of the year by far, not even close. I think probably either Barbie or The Killer. Barbie, The Killer, Guardians. Those are kind of fighting it out for the next level down. But my favorite movie of the year is another one that I did a standalone movie review video of just a couple weeks ago. It's called Fry Bread Face and Me. And it's an independent film about two kids who are cousins who meet each other for the first time while spending the summer on their grandmother's at their grandmother's house on the Navajo reservation in Arizona in 1990. And it's just a beautiful, funny, sweet, heartfelt, genuine coming of age movie about two kids getting to know each other over the summer and one of them coming to understand his family a little better than he used to. And it's wonderful. It's the best movie I've seen in years. I loved it. I loved it so much. And I have a review of it up on this channel and it's on Netflix right now. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you watch it. It's called Fry Bread Face and Me. That was my favorite movie of 2023. And keep in mind, I didn't see everything. I still haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon. I still haven't seen Oppenheimer. There are a couple of movies that have made a lot of professional critics' top 10 lists from this year that I just haven't seen yet. But of the movies from this year that I have seen, those are my favorites. So thank you for asking, Dana. I don't have skin, Air One Fire. I'm sorry to hear that. Hi, Steve. Remember when I told you about the 74% turnout election in my country? Good news, the former opposition formed a government together, which is fine. But more importantly, the ministers of education, science, and labor and social policy are now actual, real progressives, including my favorite politician of all time. For the first time in my life, I expect some actually good policy. Anyway, how's your politics going? I hear they banned orange people from running for office or something. Have a great 2024. Lots of Latinum. Well, thank you very much for the best wishes. Politics aren't going so great. It's, I'll tell you what, it depends on how the next year goes. Depending on how things go in early November 2024, they could be going better. They could be going a whole hell of a lot worse. We'll have to wait and see. We're all kind of on pins and needles. Yeah, they didn't ban orange people. They banned one particular orange person from being on the ballot in one particular state. It's not nearly as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. Don't get me wrong, it is a big deal, and I am glad it happened, and I hope it sticks. But I don't know about that. But it's not like states have barred presidential candidates from their state ballots before in relatively recent history for far less compelling reasons than he was an insurrectionist, which violates the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. So, like, it's not like the Trump people are like, this is unprecedented. This has never happened. It's anti-democratic. What about due process? Oh my God. It's happened before. It's been done before for people who did way less serious shit than Trump did. So just calm down. Okay. You fuck. So yeah, we'll see how 2024 goes. Siamak, who has no shortage of questions, but few answers. Oh, isn't just that the human condition? Greetings, Steve. So I lied. While I have many existential questions, how to solve Gaza, how to stop the Western world slide into fascism, etc., but none that come to mind for this. So instead, I'll ask you to please tell us about a local winter holiday tradition around where you live, grew up, that you enjoy participating in. Thanks and enjoy the season. There aren't really that many because I'm not a big holiday person. Like, I don't begrudge other people their celebrations, but I don't feel any particular pull to do Christmas stuff. But there's a park nearby. There's a park in Williamsport that is like a 5-minute drive from where I'm at now, that does Christmas lights every year, and they light up the entire park, and you can drive through it, at night. And actually, I haven't done it for a few years. Now that you mention it and you remind me of it, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow night. And it's not a huge park, but it's a decent sized park, and you drive through it and it takes a few minutes, and it's all lit up for Christmas, and it's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. So that's something. At Antietam Battlefield, they usually do the luminaries, the luminaria around Christmas time, which is they have the paper bags with candles in it, and they light all the candles, and the sun goes down, and the whole battlefield is decorated with these little glowing bags all over the place, and it's done in memory of the war dead. The idea is there's a candle for every casualty at the Battle of Antietam. I don't know how closely they stick to that. I don't know how exact that is. But the idea is you drive through Antietam Battlefield, and you don't drive through the entire battlefield. You drive through about half of it, is where the route usually is. And you turn off your headlights and you just sort of slowly proceed through, and you get to see all of the lights. And again, I haven't done that for many, many years either. Because honestly, you do it once, you know what it looks like, and plus there's usually a line. But yeah, that's another thing that is available as an option if you are feeling particularly Christmassy this time of year. MW Ridra, happy solstice, Steve. There are a lot of doom and gloom questions I could ask right now, but I'm going to try to end the year on a more cheerful note. There are some creators on YouTube that really impress me with how they are both really funny, but also incredibly talented in other ways. My top 3 are Tom Cardy, Bo Burnham, and Brian David Gilbert. I've especially been on a Tom Cardy kick lately. His music is very funny, but also legitimately slaps. Like, if I didn't understand English, I'd still enjoy his music based solely on the quality of the music. He's just really funny on top of that. What creators have similarly impressed you with their wit and talent? I can't really answer this question because I just don't watch that much YouTube. And most of the YouTube I watch is like I watch Seth Meyers post YouTube videos from Late Night with Seth Meyers. It's like professional productions that put their stuff on YouTube. There are YouTubers that I'm very impressed by I mentioned H Bomber guy earlier. I think he's great. Jesse Gender is great. Philosophy Tube, Abigail is fantastic. She impresses me with what an incredible actor she is, creating the different characters, the different personas that she does to sort of get her point across and make her arguments in her videos. I think she's fantastic. Natalie ContraPoints is apparently a pretty good piano player. I mean, when she plays piano in her videos, it seems like she knows what she's doing. I don't have necessarily the best ear for piano playing to judge how good she is on like if she's as good as like a concert pianist, like a classical piano player. But she seems like she's pretty fucking good to me. So I would put her on the list, but I can't really like, I don't watch that much YouTube. So I'm sure the people you mentioned, I mean, I know who Bo Burnham is. I've seen Bo Burnham. He's brilliant. He's a genius. But for the most part, like, I don't watch enough YouTube to have like kind of like a list in my mind of all the YouTubers I watch and like, and all their multiple talents. But the people you mentioned, I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they're great. Merry Christmas to all of them. Carrot Hughes. Hi, Steve. Trump's been removed from the Colorado 2024 ballot because he engaged in insurrection. No doubt he's going to appeal. If he appeals, and I don't doubt he will, is he likely to succeed? Or do you think the Supreme Court will actually do the right thing for once? On another note, I hope you have a happy and peaceful Christmas, Kara. Well, I hope the very same for you and yours. Happy Christmas to you and to your whole family and all the people you care about. I think that I hope that you have a great holiday. I mean, oh yes, of course he's going to appeal. Will he be successful? Probably, because we can't have nice things. I mean, even if he doesn't appeal, or even if he loses the appeal, depending on how he loses the appeal and depending on how broadly phrased the Supreme Court's decision is, like, even if they rule against him, they could rule against him in a very limited way that only applies to Colorado. They could say, well, Colorado, the judiciary of Colorado judged that Donald Trump was no longer qualified to be on its ballot based on its interpretation of the Constitution, and therefore it is not for this court to overrule that. And it would just apply to Colorado, which is great. Like having Trump not be on the ballot of a state, that's that many fewer electoral votes that he can get. So it's not a bad thing at all. But it would need to happen quite a few more times for it to really make a difference, or potentially make a difference in the election. I mean, personally, I am of the opinion that he did engage in insurrection and he is in violation of the 14th Amendment. So he shouldn't be on the ballot anywhere. Like, I think he should be disqualified in every state, because it's like he was on TV. Like, he did that shit. It was on TV, and he did other stuff that wasn't on TV that we now have really substantial evidence for, that he was a part of the insurrection, that his administration took part in it, helped to plan it, had plans for what to do if it succeeded. Like they were all in on it. They were all part of the plan. They were all part of the insurrection. They engaged in an insurrection against the United States. They attempted to thwart the completion of a lawful and rightful election in the United States. They attempted to overthrow the government of the United States by remaining in power when they had not been reelected. They're disqualified. Like, you shouldn't get to run again. That's against the Constitution. It says it right there. If you do that, you can't be in the government anymore. It says that. So, but that is not the world we live in. That is not the world we live in. The people on the right who claim to just want a plain and obvious and originalist reading of the Constitution are suddenly like, well, but is that really what the 14th Amendment says? You know what I mean? The people that have spent the last 50 years pointing at the Second Amendment and being like, it says shall not be infringed. That's what it says. Now they're looking at the 14th Amendment and going, I don't know if I don't think that's what it says. So, which is entertaining. It's nice to have something to laugh at while your nation's democracy slides into an abyss. So at least there's that. So no, I mean, I have no doubt, like you do, that he will appeal, and I hope that he loses, but it would not surprise me at all if the Supreme Court sided with him. I mean, that's the reason he appointed 3 of them during his presidency. Shazy, who just finished the Scott Pilgrim anime on Netflix and thought it was excellent. Good evening, Steve. Thank you very much for uploading the trans athlete moral panic video. I will keep it as a reference whenever I discuss that subject with other people. Could you please do a similar rant concerning the moral panic of trans men using the women's bathroom, or counter the claim that most transgender teens / people who proceed with gender affirming surgery regret their decision afterwards? I personally found no compelling academic evidence or other legitimate sources that corroborate these claims. My impression is that all of these issues are just other items in the long list of things the right makes up to impose their social hierarchy on society. And billionaires robbing civilization of its riches and pinning the blame on marginalized groups. Thanks again. Yeah, the bathroom issue is it's another form of the same thing that lies underneath the trans athlete issue. It's much ado about nothing. It is a problem that does not actually exist, that does not refer to any real condition in the world, that was invented by bigoted people who want to convince other people to agree with them that trans people, and it's trans people in this case, it could be any marginalized group, could be gay people, could be people of color, could be people from other countries, people who practice a minority religion. It doesn't matter. Any marginalized group. In this case, it's trans people who have been selected as the designated scapegoat for the rest of society. But that's what it is. It's making up a problem and saying, you see that? If we give those people more rights, then they're going to do this, or when you talk about the, people who transition, they always regret it, or they mostly regret it. Like you, I see no evidence of that. I see cherry-picked cases of particular people who transitioned and then decided it wasn't for them and transitioned back, and maybe they had had some irreversible surgery as a part of that transition that they then regretted. Those people do exist. Their experiences happened. Their experiences are valid. Gender is a very complex thing. Not everybody was born with, not everybody is as bland and vanilla as I am. I have never had any doubt that I am hetero. I have never had any doubt that I am cis. Right? I've never questioned the gender I was assigned at birth. I've never been sexually attracted to anybody but girls. It's just the way I am. I've never had any cause to think about it or to question it or to, feel compelled to change the way I was presenting myself or whatever. But not everybody's like me. Some people are trans and they're absolutely positive. They were assigned male at birth, but they reach a certain point in their life and they say, you know what? That's not me. I've tried to be that. I've been told that's what I am, but that's not me. I'm actually a woman. And they're absolutely positive about it. And they go through a transition and they come out the other side and they're happy and they're more themselves and they never regret it. And they never have any doubt that they made the right decision. And then there are people where it's more complicated, where they're not sure. Maybe they are non-binary, or maybe they don't even fit that category. Maybe they're just not sure. Maybe it's just so complicated for them and complex that they never really figure it out. And that's unfortunate for their experience, because I'm sure it's not very pleasant a lot of the time, especially with how fucked up this society is for people like that. But there's nothing wrong with that. Like that can be just the way you are. That's fine. You're not doing anything wrong. There's nothing immoral about it. It's just the way you are. It's okay. We as a society make it not okay, but that's not your fault. That's not the trans person's fault. That's our fault. That's the world's fault for making things so fucking hard on people for no reason other than we have our own bullshit that we just refuse to get over. If you think trans people are weird, well, that's your bullshit. You get over that. Stop trying to impose that on trans people and encouraging other people with the same weird bullshit that they should also get over to also make it trans people's problem. Like that's what's going on. I've told this story before, and I don't, when I say this, I do not mean for a second to imply that trans people had it easy up until recently, because I know that was definitely not the case. Trans people have always faced discrimination and have always been targets of bigotry and even of violence. Like they have always been a marginalized group. They have always been misunderstood. They've always been unfairly judged and treated. But this current wave of transphobia has taken all of that pre-existing bullshit and kicked it into high gear and driven it beyond any restraint and any reason. Not that there was reason behind it to begin with, but you know what I'm saying. But the story I like to tell is 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now, probably. I can't remember exactly when it was, but around 20 years ago, so early 2000s, I had one of the very few real jobs I have ever had in my life. And I've talked about it before. I was a member of the maintenance staff at a truck stop, which basically means janitor. I worked at a truck stop for 5 years as a maintenance man. And one day, a trans person came into the truck stop. She was just, she was a customer, right? And I didn't at that time I don't think I had even heard the word transgender, right? Like I knew that trans people existed. I'd seen Glenn or Glenda. I knew about trans people. I knew about Christine Jorgensen. But I thought about it in what now we would consider very old-fashioned terms. I thought about it in terms of sex change operations and transsexualism and cross-dressing and all these other sort of kind of related ideas to transgender people. But we don't really think in those terms anymore. We have an updated and hopefully more enlightened vocabulary and way of thinking about it. But back then, I knew that group of people existed, but I didn't really have an understanding or a vocabulary of them. But my understanding of it is not the point of the story. The point is this person walks in who is someone who nowadays I would automatically say, oh, she's a trans person. She's a trans woman. And I wouldn't think anything else of it. I said, oh, that's who she is, or that's part of who she is. She came into the truck stop. She bought whatever she needed to buy. She conducted whatever business she needed to conduct. And while she was there, she used the bathroom. And I know she used the bathroom because cleaning the bathroom was part of my job. And I happened to be in the area when I saw her go into the bathroom, and she used the ladies' room. And nobody said a fucking thing about it. And she was not, she didn't pass. Let's put it that way. I don't want to be unduly unkind to her. But you could tell from her appearance and from the way she talked, that she was a trans person. Right. And I think actually I think somebody like, there just to show that like, we weren't all great people back then. Like one of my bosses made some kind of unkind remark to her, or not to her, behind her back, of course. Like after she left, one of my bosses made kind of like a transphobic joke about her after she left. It was not cool. But the point is, she was a visibly, identifiably trans person who used the ladies' room, and nobody said a fucking thing about it. None of us who worked there thought it was a problem. Didn't even occur to us that it would be a problem. None of the other women who were in the ladies' room at the time, and there were other women in the ladies' room at the time when she went in and when she came out, none of them complained. I didn't like take a poll afterwards. I mean, maybe some of them thought it was weird or were upset about it, but nobody complained about it. Nobody seemed visibly upset by it or bothered by it. It was just an ordinary thing that happened. And it didn't ruin anybody's day. And as far as I could tell, nobody thought twice about it. Nobody gave a shit about it. So I'm not saying that trans people ever had it easy or ever were treated the way they deserve to be treated. But I can tell you from experience that there was a time when a trans woman using the ladies' room was not remotely a fucking problem. At least not necessarily. Again, I don't want to say that there weren't trans people who used the bathroom. I'm sure that there were trans women who used ladies' rooms many, many years, going back forever and forever, who have been hassled about it. I'm not saying that that's never happened. Like, obviously it has. Trans people and trans women in general have been targets of harassment for forever, and it's bullshit. But the moral panic of trans women are using the ladies' room, oh my God! That's something that has been completely invented over the last 5 or 10 years, right? That's something that did not exist as a cultural thing until relatively recently. You know, there were particular incidents where trans women, I imagine, were treated badly by particular transphobes or group of transphobes, but there was not this national obsession with, oh God, trans women want to use the women's room. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Like there was none of that. That has been drummed up out of nowhere by bigoted people who have an axe to grind, who are hateful and intolerant and want to impose that hatred and intolerance on people who they have judged as being wrong somehow. And it's just like I said with the trans athletes thing last time. It's a moral panic. It's an upset about absolutely nothing. It has no basis in fact. It has no basis in reason. There is no reason and no factual basis to be remotely concerned or even particularly interested in the idea of trans women using the ladies' room. Trans women, trans people in general as a group do not pose any more of a threat to other people than any other group of people. There's no reason to see a trans woman using a women's room or, and we never talk about this, a trans man using a men's room, and to even think twice about it. It's the bathroom anyway. It's none of your fucking business. What are you in the bathroom for? Well, then take care of that, wash your hands, and get the fuck out. It's not your fucking business what anybody else in there is doing. As long as they mind their business and you mind yours, what the fuck do you care? Do what you need to do, wash your hands, and get the fuck out. And let other people take care of their business. It's none of your fucking concern. So, you know, yeah. It's not as animated as the one last time, but it's the exact same issue. It's the exact same issue. You know, it's oh, those they're not allowed to do that. We don't like them. Let's stir up some outrage about it. You know, and it's horseshit. It's horseshit. Jim Luck Pickert, happy holidays, Steve, and everybody else watching who celebrates this time of year. I've been rewatching Twin Peaks: The Return, which I regard as one of the greatest things I've seen on TV. What really stood out about it to me, this rewatch, is how it avoids falling into the nostalgia bait trap that a lot of other continuations of beloved series fall into. For example, with possibly one exception, when return characters first appear, it's done in a matter-of-fact way without dramatically presenting said character to us as if to say, huh? Huh? Aren't you excited? I love how unapologetically its own vision it is, avoiding the easy applause moments to tell its own story, even doing things that might frustrate viewers because it's the story they want to tell. I find that really refreshing, since I know we share some disdain for the style of storytelling that's overly reliant on fandom-pleasing references and nostalgia. Is there anything that you find refreshing in the same way? I mean, I think Twin Peaks: The Return is a great example. I can't think of another example off the top of my head of something that does a similar thing. But yeah, Twin Peaks: The Return is great for the reason that you just cited, because, and I'll be honest, when I first watched it, it bothered me a little. It bothered me that we didn't get to see Cooper as he was in the show. Like, I wanted to see Cooper. I wanted to see Agent Cooper like I remembered him from the show. And I had that sort of, that fanish yearning to see him again. And I didn't get to see him until almost the very end of the series, and then just for a little bit. And what I realized was David Lynch and Mark Frost and the other creators of the show, they weren't interested in giving me what I wanted. They weren't interested in serving the fans. They had the attitude that I think all creative people should have, which is fuck the fans. Fuck the fans. Who gives a fuck what they want? Tell the story you need to tell. And if it's good, it'll find an audience and people will like it. And if not everybody likes it, oh well, not everybody's going to like everything. But fuck the fans. You want to provide fan service, tell a good story. And you do that by following your instincts as an artist and telling the story that is inside you that you want to tell. That's the best form of fan service, a good story. It's the only valid form of fan service I know of. Everything else is pandering to one degree or another. And Twin Peaks The Return doesn't do that. Twin Peaks The Return is David Lynch saying, this is what I want to do. It's been so long since I worked with this material, since I worked with these characters, worked with these actors. I don't want to do season 3 of Twin Peaks, because let's be honest, season 2 of Twin Peaks wasn't that great. I don't want to do that. I want to do something completely different. I want to do it my way. He worked out a deal with Showtime where he obviously had the freedom to do it his way, and that's what he did. And it was fantastic. I loved it. It was very David Lynch. It was way Lynchier than the original series. And I love the original Twin Peaks, especially the first season. The first season of Twin Peaks is one of my favorite shows. I love Twin Peaks. But Twin Peaks The Return was way Lynchier than the original Twin Peaks was. Like, it's like David Lynch going, okay, I'm going to lynch this motherfucker up. I'm going to David Lynch all over this, right? And that's what he did. And it was wonderful and atmospheric and provocative and evocative and weird and creepy and scary and beautiful and all of the things that you think of if you're a fan of his when you think of David Lynch. It was great. And that one little moment of classic Coop, when he does finally come back to himself and he's Dale Cooper from 1989 that you remember, it was amazing. It was amazing. Because the show wasn't about pandering to you and reassuring you and just spoon feeding you what you expected or what you remembered. It wasn't about references and member berries and remember this and remember that. And doesn't it feel good to see the people again? And that's what I wanted at first. And David Lynch and Mark Frost and the others on that show were smart enough and were artists enough to say, well, you don't get what you want. You get what we have for you. You know, they were smart enough to realize the truth of what Ira Stephen Bear, the showrunner for the second half of Deep Space Nine, has said before, which is the audience doesn't know what it wants until you give it to them. The audience isn't writing the show. God help you if you let the audience write the fucking show. The audience are not the writers. The writers are the writers. It's their job to make up the story. That's what they should do. Fuck the audience. And that apparently was the attitude that David Lynch and his collaborators had on Twin Peaks: The Return. And I thought it was true. I should watch it. I only watched it the first time when it originally came out. I should go back and watch it again because I really liked it. Once I got over my fandom and I accepted it on its own terms and I dialed into what it was doing, I loved it. I should go back and watch it again. Said Merck, hey Steve, you're Santa Claus. If you had me thinking about, well, Santa Claus first, who is your favorite movie or TV Santa? I think I have to go with Seth Applegate from Ernest Saves Christmas. He's just so warm and gentle and clearly loves his job and is sad that he has to give it up. And he affects me every time I watch that second part. It affects me every time I watch that. Second part of the question, my wife and I are considering adopting a child next year. So next year could be the first Christmas we have to address the Santa question. If, God forbid, you had children, how would you address Santa Claus? What are some pros and cons of each side of the question? Because I am debating it myself. How would you resolve it? Well, first of all, Santa, the Seth Applegate was the original Santa, right? Was the first Santa, the Santa who needs to find the replacement in Ernest Saves Christmas. He was good. He was really good. I mean, I'm gonna give myself a little bit of leeway here and say that my favorite Santa is Edmund Gwenn from the original Miracle on 34th Street. And I say I'm going to allow myself a little allowance here because he's not really Santa. Like Santa, Kris Kringle in Miracle on 34th Street, in the original, and the only good one. He's not really Santa. Like, that's the whole point of the movie. He's not really Santa. Or at best, it's left ambiguous. The one thing that movie is not doing is saying he's definitely Santa. That's not the conclusion you are led to. I think you are led to the conclusion that he's not Santa, and that's the whole point. But at best, it is left as an open question. But he's my favorite Santa, even though he's technically not Santa. He's just a nice old man with whiskers, like Susan's mother said. As for your second question, I think, I mean, look, I don't see anything particularly wrong with either way to go. I don't think there's anything horrible about parents allowing a child to believe in Santa Claus, nor do I think there's anything necessarily wrong with telling a child that there is no Santa Claus. I think if I had kids, God forbid, uh, I would handle it the same way I would handle questions that they gave me about the existence of God. I would not be harsh about it. I would not want to, if I sensed that there was some kind of some spark of wonder in their imaginations about it, I would not want to stamp that out. And I would not want to make them feel alienated from their friends if they were of an age when like all of their little friends believed in Santa Claus. I would not want to, make them feel set apart from the group for something like that. But I would treat it the same way I would treat questions about the existence of God, where I would tell them what other people believe. I would tell them to the best of my ability what the beliefs are. I would say, yeah, there are a lot of people who do believe in Santa Claus, and there are some really wonderful things about it. And here's some of the stories that people tell about Santa. And here's, do you want to, do you want to watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Do you want to watch Santa Claus is Coming to Town? Like, I love those. I watched those when I was a kid. I think those are wonderful. We could watch those together. We can talk about Santa Claus. We can discuss, well, why, if Santa lives at the North Pole, how comes nobody's ever seen him? And we can talk about it, not in a way where it's me trying to disprove it to the kid, but let's just have a conversation. Let's use our imaginations, because they're going to wind up not believing in Santa anyway. They're going to reach a point when they grow up, when they realize, oh, there is no Santa Claus. That was just a story. Now, I don't know. If at all possible, I would try to do it without directly lying to the kid. Again, not that I have a huge hang up about that. Like, as long as it's about something that isn't going to like endanger or harm or, fuck up the kid, I have no problem with parents lying to kids. Like, I don't have some kind of like, moral stick up my ass. I'm like, oh, you mustn't ever lie to a child. No, fucking lie to a child as much as you want. Who gives a shit? As long as it's not something that will harm them, or for some kind of nefarious reason, right? If it's just to make your life a little easier that day, yeah, fucking lie to the kid. Who gives a shit? But as far as Santa Claus, because I do think part of the value of it is in the growing up and the growing out of it. Like, I don't think I would directly say to my kid, yes, there is a Santa Claus. And in fact, if they asked me what I believed, if they said, Daddy, do you believe in Santa Claus? I would probably tell them that I don't, but I would also tell them that when I was their age, I did, which is true, and let them figure it out. But I would use it as an opportunity. If it's something they were interested in, I would use it as an opportunity for conversation and for creativity and imagination, and try to sort of spark their sense of wonder and get them to think about it. And eventually they'll grow up and they'll realize that there is no Santa Claus. But hopefully that process of letting go of a comforting story will do them good in other ways as they get older. They'll realize maybe there are some other things they used to believe when they were kids, and now they're starting to realize, actually, that story doesn't add up. I don't think that's true. And they'll be able to let that go without feeling hurt by it, because that's what happened with Santa Claus. And they can still remember the story, and they can still remember the parts that made them happy or made them feel all warm and fuzzy. They still have that. Like, there's still something about the idea of Santa that you can think about and feel good about, even though it's not true. It's still a wonderful idea, and it represents things that are real and that are parts of our nature, giving and charity and generosity and hope and the goodness being rewarded. Like, there are things about the Santa story that are real and are useful and that we should hold on to, even when we get to the point where we don't literally believe it anymore, just like lots of other things. So, yeah. And finally, Thomas J. Wright, Black Body Economics. Oh no, I'm so late. Let's see if this gets through. How are you? Lay it all out. We're here to listen. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good. Thanks for asking. How are you, Thomas? Hope you're well. Okay, that's it for the patron and member questions. I feel like I took more than enough time with those. So before I turn to the live chat, you know what time it is. It's Stuffy time. I'm going to show you a brand new Stuffy short that will go up as a standalone YouTube short on this channel tomorrow, but you get to see it right now. First ever world premiere, brand new Stuffy and Friends short. Here we go. Hope you enjoy it. Pick a number between 1 and 10.
4.
Ugh, no. Pick another one.
What's wrong with 4?
I'm on Grubhub trying to decide where to order supper from. There are 10 restaurants in my rotation. The fourth one is the Chow Cafe, but I don't want to order from the Chow Cafe. To hell with the Chow Cafe.
If it's so bad, how did it wind up in your rotation?
Because they make this amazing farro salad with cucumbers and roasted peppers and crumbled goat cheese. It's to die for.
That sounds delicious. Why not order that?
In December?
I apologize?
Apology accepted.
How about 6?
Pick another one! There you have it. Hope you enjoyed that one. Let's turn to the live chat, shall we? Hello, everybody. Sorry for keeping you waiting so long. It took a while to get through the patron questions this time. Let me see if I have missed any super chats. Well, of course I have. John Burns with a couple of super chats. John Burns says, derivative boy, I mentioned Johnson and Kennedy. I never mentioned Nixon, Mr. Obsessive. I did mention Kennedy. Are you saying Nixon would beat RFK? I think we know why RFK didn't get the nomination. Another one from John, thank you very much, says, I saw the movie The Boy and the Heron. I couldn't stop saying, wow, visually stunning, engaging story. Also looking forward to Godzilla -1. Yeah, I've heard The Boy and the Heron is good. I'll probably check that out when it's available on streaming as well. I've heard that that's very good. And here's a member message from Oasis who says, thanks for the answer, Steve. I pose another question to you. Who has the best scream and why is it Marv from Home Alone's 1 and 2? Who has the best scream? I have no idea, but it's who has the best scream? I don't know. Guy from Galaxy Quest scream was pretty funny, wasn't it? Sam Rockwell. I don't know if that's the best ever or not, but that's the one that just came to mind. Let's see what I have missed in the chat. No, here's 255 AD talking about Miracle on 34th Street. The 1990s remake of Miracle on 34th Street heavily implied he was Santa. Like his house has reindeer. He says his workshop exists in another dimension. Do you think that's a mistake? Yes, I think that's a huge mistake. That's not the only reason why that movie sucks. There's other reasons why that movie sucks. And I can confirm that that movie sucked because I just watched it again recently. I did a thing. I watched every version of Miracle on 34th Street leading up to our most recent recording of the Late Seating podcast, so I could talk about them on the pre-show with Jason, because we talk on the pre-show that is just for patrons of the podcast. We talk about movies we've watched, just in our own time, since the last show. And I thought, oh, this is going to be our Christmas show, so I'll watch some Christmas movies to talk about. And I thought, oh, this will be fun. I'll watch every single version of Miracle on 34th Street, of which there are 5. In terms of TV and movies, like there's also stage plays and stuff, but and radio versions. I didn't get into any of that, but I watched all 5 versions of Miracle on 34th Street and can confirm only the original is even worth half a shit. The original is a classic. It's one of my favorite movies. All of the other ones are varying shades of awful, but some are definitely better than others. But the 1994 version with Richard Attenborough and Mara Wilson, both of whom are fantastic talents. Like Richard Attenborough was a great actor and a great director, and Mara Wilson was a terrific child star, and she seems like a really cool person in real life. Like I have nothing against Mara Wilson at all. She's great. But that movie is the shits. Like that movie is awful. It's absolutely fucking terrible from beginning to end. I think it's the worst version of Miracle on 34th Street. It's terrible. One of the reasons is that they basically tell you, oh, he's really Santa, which is dog shit, which is a terrible idea. But there's other reasons why it's bad too. But the point is, I watched all 5 versions of Miracle on 34th Street to talk about with Jason on the podcast. And as I was watching them, I thought, this would make a cool video. I should do a video about watching all 5 versions of Miracle on 34th Street, because I did one, at the beginning of the month, about the second version, the version that we did for the Stuffy and Friends Turkey Day video this year. And so I did a video just a couple weeks ago about that and comparing that to the original version. And I thought, well, I should do a video about, do something similar, but like talk about all 5 different versions. Of course, I don't have time to do it this year. And plus I just did that Miracle on 34th Street video recently. So I'll have to do it again. So I'll have to do it next year, which means that next year I will also have to watch all 5 versions of Miracle on 34th Street, of which there is exactly one good one. So I've set that task for myself for, a little less than a year from now. I will be watching every version of Miracle on 34th Street yet again. Wilhelm for the Scream. Yes, Matt M. That's a good one. Oh God, Yannick Muller, Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks. That's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah, Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks. That's a good one. Yeah, I like that one. Let me see. CMX says, thank you for saying aloud what I've been thinking. I love Jesse's content, but 3 to 5 hour videos, oh my God. Yeah, same. I love Jessie. I love her as a person. I love her work. I love her voice. I love what she brings to YouTube. I think she's fantastic. I wish her all the success in the world. Anytime she asks me for anything, I say yes. Like if she asks me to record a voice or to do, if I can possibly do what she asks me, I do it. She's awesome. 5-hour videos are fucking ridiculous. There is no reason for anybody to make a 5-hour YouTube video about anything. 2 hours is pushing it, right? 2 hours is really pushing it. And and for creators like H-Bomb or like Jesse that I like, I will say, or Dan Olson is another one. My God, Dan, you know about movies, dude. Why are you making fucking 3 and 4 hour videos? What the fuck, man? Make separate videos. I know there are like algorithmic reasons to do it and it raises your watch time and stuff, but like, come on, people, like, if you have a point to make and you can't possibly, first of all, you can, but let's just pretend for the moment that you can't possibly make the point you're trying to make in under 3 or 4 or 5 hours, then do 3 or 4 videos about, just do them like episodes, make a series and release them as episodes. It's just, I don't get it. I don't get it. And like I said, I have yet, even for people that I love, like Jesse and like H-Bomb, I've never watched a 4-hour YouTube video and thought, yeah, that needed to be every second of 4 hours. It can always be shorter. Like you're making the same point over and over again. You don't need to show us every single one of these examples. That was my thing with H-Bomb's video. Again, H-Bomb's video was great. And he did a huge public service by outing James Somerton, and he's a hero for that. But it's like, okay, you don't need to cite every single example of this in the video. Like, we get it. You're making a video. You're not presenting a court case. You're not a prosecutor presenting a court case to a jury. If you were presenting a court case to a jury, yeah, show them every single thing that's relevant. Build the case and show them every single example. You're making a YouTube video. Pick the best ones, write it, make it an hour, release it. Collect your laurels, right? $2580 says, I edited my pre-submitted question after you saw it. Well, did you edit it sometime today, because I didn't post it into my script until today. I apologize for mentioning it, for not seeing it, but like, dude, I post them in my script. I try to wait as late as possible. I try not to do it because you've edited your question before and I read the old version. Like, I try not to put the questions into my notes that I show on screen until day of, So if you submit a question early and then you change it like a couple hours before the show, I may not see the version because I don't go back and reread them multiple times. So I apologize for that, but just keep that in mind. Daryl Lett says, okay, Steve, wrestling winner, Biden or Trump? As for Christmas, first of all, Biden. Biden would murder Trump. Biden is an old man, but he's in great shape for an old man. Like, the dude swims and bicycles. And Biden would fucking destroy Trump. As for Christmas movies and specials, I like animations like Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Oh, sure. The original How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Boris Karloff doing the narration. I love that. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah, absolutely. And directed by Chuck Jones. Yeah, it's a classic. Michael Handeline says, what do you think about SCOTUS declining today the request to speed up Trump's appeals stalling tactics? I mean, I kind of wish they would have gone for it. I kind of wish they would have just cut that off at the knees and said, no, like, this doesn't need to go through the entire process. Like, we can just decide this here and move this along. Hopefully it won't make that much of a difference in the long run, but it would have been nice to kind of take that particular weapon, away from Trump. Harry Behemoth, those super long videos should be multi-parter. See, that's what I think. Either, like I said, if you absolutely cannot do it in less than 5 hours, then make 5 videos. But my other suggestion would be, you can probably do it in less than 5 hours. Like, if you are willing to murder your darlings, as all storytellers should be willing to do, if you are willing to look at it as a piece, as a work, and say, it's just like what I was saying earlier with like the world building with fiction writing. It's the same thing with documentary storytelling. There might be 15 great examples of the thing, of your argument, 15 great pieces of evidence that you want to share with the audience. But remember that, again, you're not putting together a court case. You're making a video or a movie or whatever it is that is intended to be watched by an audience, preferably in one sitting, because it's one thing. I know people watch YouTube videos differently. I know people say like, well, I watch it and then I pause it and then I come back. I do the same thing. It took me probably 3 or 4 sittings to get through H Bomber Guy's video, right? I do it the same way. That doesn't mean I'm okay with it. Like, if it's one video, I should be able to watch it in one sitting. Because it's one thing. It's one segment, right? Again, goes back to my philosophy that to a certain degree, form should dictate content. And so you have all this great stuff you could put in it, but what's going to make the most compelling and most persuasive or most emotionally powerful or whatever you're aiming for, what's going to make the biggest impact of that kind on the audience? And put that in the movie and leave the other stuff out. Provide links. If you're that much of a completist, if you really are approaching it like a prosecutor and you're like, but I have to show people all of this evidence. Okay. Well, you can add links. You can add supplemental material if you must. I kind of think that's going a little too far. But if you feel like you have to do that, then you can do that. But just make the video, and do right by the video. Yeah. I don't know. Michael Handeline, he couldn't have been thorough about Somerton in an hour. The first half of H-Bomb's video wasn't even about Somerton. Like, he did the thing, and I know he was doing it as like a joke, as like a big reveal, like, haha, here's what the video was really about. And that's a cute gag. But does it justify a 4-hour video? However useful and important the material was? Like, the first half of that video wasn't even about James Somerton. And it had some interesting stuff, right? Like the first half of the video about like the plagiarism among like the video game reviewers and angry video game nerd and stuff like that was interesting. But here's the thing. If it has nothing to do with what the video is actually about, other than it's also about plagiarism, like if it's just some other cases of plagiarism leading up to the real point of the video, which is James Somerton, then cut it out. Like, just cut it out. Make the video about James Somerton, because that's what it's really about. And don't put the other stuff in. Or make other videos. Like, make that other videos. Yeah. Let me see. Dana, yeah, arguably he did need to cite every example because James didn't. Touche. I still don't think it needed to be a 4-hour video. Matt M, even channels run by actual lawyers don't make videos that long. And again, like, I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to take a piss on H-Bomb or Jesse or anybody who makes long videos, because a lot of the people who make long videos I admire greatly, and I consider some of them friends, and I think they do good work, and they're really smart, creative, wonderful, funny people. But I just think the concept of making a 4 or 5 hour long YouTube video is inherently absurd. You know? Harry Behemoth says, Steve, what's Jason up to? Any shows you guys are considering reviewing together? Well, I don't know if we have decided to do, we talked about reviewing the final season of Star Trek Discovery when it comes out, like we did for Picard and Strange New Worlds. I don't know if we have firmly decided that or not, but we might do that coming up in the new year when the 5th and final season of Disco comes out. And that would be interesting, because Jason is not nearly as much of a fan of Disco as I am. Like, I have become a fan of Discovery and consider it a good, if flawed and sometimes frustrating series. Like, overall, I consider myself a fan of it, and I really like Disco. Jason doesn't. So that would be an interesting show to review. So we might do that. I'm not sure. But yeah, as someone else mentioned further down in the chat, yeah, Kane 20C. Thank you. Yeah, we still do Late Seating, the podcast, and we review movies every other week. And we just did our Christmas episode, which was our commentary track on the Santa Claus, where you can watch the Santa Claus while you play our podcast and listen to us talk over it and then review it. And then next time we're doing The Godfather Part 2, which is a 4-hour thing that actually justifies the length. So you know what? If you're not The Godfather 2, don't make yourself 4 hours. How about that? If you're not making The Godfather Part 2, make it shorter than 4 fucking hours. Because it's not The Godfather Part 2. All right, 255 AD. I will look at the edited version. Just give me a second. I'll look and I'll answer it. John Burns with a super chat says, best Scream, Ryan Gosling and the Nice Guys. Ooh, that's a good movie, by the way, too. Thank you for reminding me of that movie. All right, let me see. Let me check the updated version of 285 AD's question. Okay, it is. Oh, so you just wanted to show me a picture. My brother has 2-year-old twin girls, so I got him this gift. Let me see the gift. Oh, it's a doggy. Or it's like a ceramic doggy, right? It's like a... Yeah, it's like a little model of a doggy and puppies. Well, that's cute. That's really cute. So there. I just I looked at the picture you wanted to show me. Kane20C says Deathmatch Time Holiday Edition. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner. Who comes out on top? Dasher. Dasher. Don't ask me why, but Dasher. Oh, some random geek. That's a great answer. Donner, willing to eat the others. Holy shit. That's a great line, dude. That's a great line. CMAC asks, who is your favorite ridiculous celebrity and why is it David Hasselhoff? I mean, it might be David Hasselhoff. It might be David Hasselhoff. Who else? Who are some of the possibilities? David Hasselhoff. I mean, I can't feel good about saying Shatner anymore because he's shown himself to be such a dick in real life. I feel like I can't say Shatner, but when he was still alive, I would have said Patrick Swayze, the king of cheese. And he is forever in my heart, my favorite. I guess he's not ridiculous. He just made a lot of cheesy movies. I see what you're saying with Hasselhoff. Yeah, it might be Hasselhoff. Because I mean, look, how can you argue with this? Okay, look at the guy's resume. You want to talk about greatest like ridiculous celebrity. Okay. Here's what Hasselhoff has on his resume. First of all, he has Knight Rider and Baywatch. That's the same guy. Knight Rider and Baywatch. Plus the music. He's a German pop star, right? And he was on Broadway. He did Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway, which I didn't see, but must have been fucking ridiculous. And in addition to all that, right? He was in Star Crash. Remember Star Crash? The like Star Wars ripoff that they made in the late 70s? Starring oh fuck. Christopher Plummer and Marjoe Gortner. Remember Star Crash? David Hasselhoff was in it. And here's the best part. David Hasselhoff is the best part of it. David Hasselhoff, the rest of that movie is so bad that David Hasselhoff, by comparison, is brilliant, is so good in Star Crash. He's so good. So yeah, that's the same guy. Think about that. The Knight Rider, Baywatch, the music career, and Star Crash. That's the same guy. So yes, it's got to be Hasselhoff. It's got to be Hasselhoff. Isaiah, yes, I have seen My Cousin Vinny. Yeah, and it's hilarious. My Cousin Vinny is terrific. Oh, Philip. Yes, I did just watch that recently. I think that might have been my favorite episode so far of the new Doctor Who. Midnight, where they're all trapped on that train in the middle of that planet where the sunlight kills you, and there's like a thing that inhabits one of the passengers, and then it starts fucking with the Doctor, and it's like it repeats. Yeah, I think that is my favorite episode so far. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. It was like, this is one of the highest compliments that I can give any TV shows. It reminded me of a Twilight Zone, and like a good Twilight Zone. It reminded me of a really good Twilight Zone episode because almost all of it takes place in that one setting, and it has a premise that where you don't quite know exactly what's going on, but it advances. The situation evolves and escalates in logical ways, and it's really creepy. And it has a simple and emotionally impactful resolution to the problem. Yeah, I thought Midnight was great. I thought it was great. Oh, Harry Behemoth. Yes, Magnolia is another one. Yeah, Magnolia is 3 hours long, and it is perfect. I wouldn't change a single thing about it. Now, I wouldn't add anything to it. I wouldn't want to see more of Magnolia, but I don't think it needs to have anything cut either. It's just right. Yeah, Geek. Star Crash is on YouTube. And you know what else? Not only that, Star Crash was one of the movies that they did, I think, in the first season of the Mystery Science Theater revival, which is still on Netflix. It was one of the Netflix seasons. It was either the first or the second Mystery Science Theater revival, because it was before they left Netflix to go do their own thing on their own website. I think it's the first season. I think it's the first season of the new Mystery Science Theater. They do Star Crash, and it's great. It's a really funny episode. So I would recommend that as well as an alternate form of watching Star Crash. Oh my God, Michael Hanneline. Oh, first of all, 255 AD. I liked Honey, I Shrunk the Kids when I was a kid, when I saw it. I haven't watched it recently. I don't know if I would like it now or not, but I watched it. I liked it at the time when I saw it when I was a kid. Okay, Michael Hanneline. I just stopped at a gas station and they are selling cheeseburgers with cinnamon buns as hamburger buns. And I need your thoughts on this shit while I have you. I think I agree with some random geek. I think you should buy them all because you're going to need food, because apparently the world is ending. Because I think cinnamon bun hamburgers is probably a sign of the apocalypse. And you need to take that because you will need the calories. You will need the sustenance to continue in whatever post-apocalyptic dystopia we will momentarily find ourselves living in, because clearly the end must be near if there are cinnamon bun hamburgers being sold at gas stations. It's not just a gas station hamburger. It's a gas station hamburger with buns that are also gas station cinnamon buns. I kind of would like to try one. I would totally eat one. Like, I'm not being completely judgmental about it. Like, I do think it's kind of ridiculous. I would absolutely eat one. 2 to 580. As a kid, yeah, when did it come out? Yeah, the first one came out in 89. So yes, I was 9 years old. Yeah, that's when I saw it. Or around then. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on home video shortly after. But yeah, I was still just a kid when it came out. Oh, it was cats. Okay, well, they look like dogs. Sorry, 25580. Okay, cats. Well, it's a nice figurine anyway. Harry Behemoth was ahead of me there. Yep, MST3K did it. Dana says, I thought he was going to say Hasselhoff was in Magnolia. You know, that might be one of the few ways Magnolia could have been improved if there had been some Hasselhoff in there. I don't know where he would have fit in. Maybe he could have played like the delivery guy who brings the grocery order that Phil makes in order to get his porno magazines so he can find the number to locate Frank T.J. Mackey. Maybe that delivery driver can randomly be David Hasselhoff. And just a tiny, completely unremarked upon cameo. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, John, Dances with Wolves was 3 hours long. I'm not a fan of Dances with Wolves. Dances with Wolves is one of those movies where I'm like, oh, this could be shorter. I'm not a fan of Dances with Wolves. But yes, it is also a long movie. Dana, that's true. A McGriddle is somewhat similar. You know, it's not cinnamon bun bread, but it's got maple syrup injected into it through some Ron Popeil-like process. I like CMX speculating on the number of calories. That could actually be 12,000 calories if they're Cinnabons. Wow. 255 AD says, when you watched Midnight, did you care we never found out what the alien entity was? No, I thought that was one of the good things about it. I thought the episode was better because we didn't find out. It was just it was a mystery, and it was a terrifying and ultimately inexplicable experience. Like, I thought that was one of the strengths of it. I didn't want to know what the alien entity was. I didn't think that would have improved it at all. Oh, Tasby, that's true. Hoff was Nick Fury. Yes. Yeah, I didn't mention that, but yes, add that to the list. Add that to the list. Okay, so he was in Knight Rider, Baywatch. He's got the music career. He was in Star Crash, and thank you, Tasby12. He was also in that, I don't even know how to describe that, deliciously bad Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV movie in the 90s. Yeah. I mean, that's, you know? K20C, I love Dances with Wolves. It cures my insomnia every time. Yeah. Yeah. John Burns says, I saw a YouTube video of Napoleon, which is over 5 hours. Good idea. Okay. Do you mean the movie Napoleon, the Ridley Scott movie about Napoleon is over 5 hours? Or do you mean the YouTube video about Napoleon is over 5 hours? Because I haven't seen the movie. I would like to see the movie at some point. I mean, it may be possible that when I watch the movie, if the movie is 5 hours long, that I will come out of it at the end thinking, yeah, that needed to be every minute of 5 hours. Probably not, though. But I can't judge because I haven't seen the movie. However, if you're telling me that there's a YouTube video about Napoleon that is 5 hours long, then no, that shouldn't be 5 hours. That should be way less than 5 hours. Oh, and Baywatch Nights, Matt M. Yes, Baywatch Nights. Oh, yes, and CMAC. Yes, and Hoff sang as the wall came down. Yes, he did. Yes, that is a historical fact, as everyone knows. In fact, the wall probably came down because he sang. Okay, Some Random Geek says, best Christmas Carol version. This is it was good, Dana. My answer to your question was good. And also, I called you out for fucking me over on your last question. Just one last time. No hard feelings. Okay, anyway, Some Random Geek. Best Christmas Carol version. This was okay. Okay. I know which one you're talking about, John. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. The 5 hour silent Napoleon. I haven't seen that, so I can't judge. But again, I'm dubious about the runtime. I'm dubious. Best Christmas Carol version, to finally answer Geek's question without getting distracted, is the 1951 Alastair Sim version. That is the only one that I watch without fail every year. I haven't watched it yet. I will probably try to watch it. Hey, Jason. Opinionville's here. Hi, Jason. And you're right. I would have been conflicted. I still probably would have said, Stanley, you didn't need 16 hours to do this. Although it is one of my favorite stories about Kubrick, where he says he told someone at some point, I'm making a film about the life of Napoleon. And someone said, oh, really? Which part of Napoleon's life? And Kubrick said, all of it. So, but anyway, no, the Alastair Sim version of Christmas Carol is my favorite version. It's the only version that I watch every year. I haven't watched it yet this year. I'll probably watch it tomorrow at some point because we're getting close to Christmas. But yeah, I love the Alastair Sim version. It is by far my favorite. And also, but that's just as movies. I have the audiobook of Patrick Stewart reading A Christmas Carol, which is basically an audio version of his one-man show. And that is also, I haven't listened to that yet. I'll probably listen to that. I might listen to that on Christmas Eve. Because that's one of my favorite things. I love listening to the Patrick Stewart Christmas because it's so good. It's so good. 255 AD says, something I was kind of interested about that episode is the idea humanity put a resort on a planet we can't explore most of because we just assumed life was impossible there. Yeah, and also the fact that that resort is apparently there just because, like, the planet is pretty to look at. Like it's, yeah, I mean, yeah, the assumption that life can't possibly exist there, like that's part of sort of the human arrogance and whatever. But also it's like you've built a vacation spot on a planet where you can't survive outside. Like the sunlight will kill you. But if you look at it through appropriate layers of protection for a safe amount of time, it's really pretty. So we're going to have a place here. Like yeah, it's funny. Yes, a random geek. The next patron member hangout is next week on New Year's Eve. Yes, correct. And Matt M. Yes, I have heard of Whamageddon, but why would I want to avoid listening to the wonderful music of Wham? I like Last Christmas. I'm sorry. I think I don't listen to it all the time, but I think Last Christmas is a good song. Why would I want to avoid hearing it? I'm hearing it in my head right now, and it's lovely. And yes, Dana, my CMAC is right. My answer to your question was fantastic. It was a lot better than my answer to your question last time. You know why? You know why it was better this time? I'll let you think about that. Jason, what do you think? Harry Behemoth says we should review Doctor Who episodes. I don't know about that. No, Steven, are you gonna jump on my musical taste again? I like Last Christmas. You know what else I like? Careless Whisper. I love that song. I love Careless Whisper. What do you think of that? Not even ironically. I listen to it and I genuinely enjoy it. What about that? What are you going to do with that? Huh? Go ahead. Fit that into your brain. Imagine that. Fathom that. I genuinely enjoy it. Yeah. Oh, no, I am. I'm doing it. I'm saying it, Stephen. I'm saying it. I mean, I have no, like, after I've gotten through it, or at least caught up to, the most recent episodes, I would not completely rule out like doing a video every once in a while about Doctor Who if I could think of something to say about it, if I had some kind of opinion on it. But I'm not like at this point. I mean, like sometimes I watch stuff just to watch it, like I don't. I actually take that kind of seriously. Like I don't want to turn everything I watch or everything I do or everything I enjoy into content. Like if I do make a YouTube video about a TV show or a movie or something like that, it's because I have something to say about it that I think is interesting. I have a particular thesis, a particular argument, an observation that I think is worth sharing. I don't just watch a show and think, oh, that was cool. I like that. Let me make a video about it. Like sometimes I just want to watch something. And I still have critical thoughts. Like, as you could tell, like when I talk about Doctor Who, that episode of Midnight, I hope, even though it was off the top of my head, I hope I was at least semi-articulate in describing what I thought about it. I do look at things, with a critical eye, and I am capable of reviewing things sort of off the cuff, but like that doesn't mean that I feel compelled to make a video about it, John Burns with a super chat says a photo op of John Candy dressed up as Boy George. Okay. Thank you for sharing that random piece of information. 255 AD says, have you seen Silence in the Library? Yes. That was good. I enjoyed that. Again, the shadow thing was creepy. The shadow monsters, that was very creepy. Yeah. Matt, no, I haven't seen Murder at the End of the World. Has that been completely released now? Are all the episodes out? I might try to check that out at some point. It's an interesting concept, I think. And I do love a good murder mystery. But no, I have not seen it. Yeah, Wireless Mike. Yeah, never gonna. That's Careless Whisper. Yeah, I love that song. Um, Daryl lets war is stupid and people are stupid. I mean, can't argue with that. Um, okay, it exists, John. Okay, I've never seen it, but okay, I believe you and thank you for sharing. I'm not calling you a liar. Okay, let me see. I've gone about a half an hour later than usual because I took so long answering the patron questions. So, no, I have not watched Dark Matter, John. Um, I know you've recommended that to me several times, but I haven't watched it yet. But anyway, we've gone about a half an hour later than usual because I took so long answering the patron questions and I wanted to hang out with the chat for a little bit. But I do think I am going to wrap this baby up. So the first thing I want to do is remind everybody, and Geek put the links in the chat already, and I imagine he might drop them in there again. But yeah, he sure will. Look at that. Look, you see that? You see that? But you can find them all in charitylinks.page, which is linked in the description. And there are plenty of people in need. And if you have a few spare bucks lying around that you want to use to put toward a good cause, I highly recommend charitylinks.page or using one of the links that some random geek is going to put in the live chat to help out some people who need a helping hand. What did Harry Behemoth? What did somebody say about AEW? I don't know, but I agree with you. But I mean, it's not just that AEW doesn't matter since Punk's gone. I don't think it's not even watchable. I haven't been watching it since they fired him. I haven't watched it at all since they fired him. But I keep up with it by reading like recaps and stuff, and it sounds just fucking terrible. Like it sounds like, boy, whew, goddamn. Anyway, so charitylinks.page. Also, don't forget if you want to help me out, if you want to support this channel and the work I do on here, the best way to do it is to either become a patron by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives or by becoming a channel member through clicking the join button. Either way, your regular monthly donation really helps me out, allows me to continue doing this. And I appreciate all of my patrons and all of my members. And one of the benefits of patronage or membership is you get the opportunity to ask me a question, pre-submitted question for every episode of Ask Away. And those are the questions that I answer in the first part of the show. So if that sounds like something that is of interest to you, I encourage you to become a patron or a member. Or if you just think I'm worth a few bucks a month and you can afford it, I encourage you to become a patron or a member. Thank you very much. And thanks to everybody who is. Also, thanks to everybody who has donated super chats in the chat tonight. I always appreciate that as well. And in addition to the Patreon page and membership and all of that, don't forget I am on two awesome podcasts, the Lemmy Listen podcast family. I along with Jason, who I don't know if you're still in the chat, Jason, but Opinionville, he was here earlier. Jason and I co-host the Late Seating podcast, which is a movie review show where we take a look at classic films and see if they deserve their reputations, good or bad. Our most recent episode is our Christmas show where we do a live commentary track to the Santa Claus. So you watch the Santa Claus while you listen to our show. It's like a riff track, and you get to watch the Santa Claus while hearing us talk over it for the entire time. It's great. And then we review it afterwards. Also, in addition to Late Seating, there is also the Ensign's Log, which is the Star Trek themed improv comedy podcast that I do alongside Jason and Dana Cole, where the three of us play characters existing in the Star Trek universe, and Star Trek episodes kind of happen in the background of our shows. But we're concerned with our own stuff and telling our own stories and doing our own funny stuff. And the new episode of the Ensign's Log comes out next week. We recorded it this past week, and it's a really good one. And yeah, If you enjoy Star Trek, if you enjoy funny Star Trek, if you enjoy the Star Trek themed stuff that I do on this channel, I highly encourage you to check out the Ensign's Log because we have a great time doing it. And it's such a fun show to make, and hopefully it's a fun show for you to listen to as well. So links to all of that stuff are in the video description. And I believe that is it. That is all I have to tell you, my friends. Thank you all so much for being with me this time. This is the last show before Christmas, obviously. Christmas is Monday. So if you celebrate Christmas, happy Christmas. And Happy New Year, because I won't see you again until after the New Year. So have a great holiday. Have a great last couple weeks of the year. I will be back next weekend on New Year's Eve for the patron and member hangout. That'll be not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday at noon Eastern. So that there is that. And plus Dana and I also have Trek Reluctantly this coming Wednesday, where we will be watching Deep Space Nine. We'll be watching Broken Link, the final episode of season 4 of Deep Space Nine. That's Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, as usual. And yeah, so I'll see you then. And I'll see you for another Ask Away in 2 weeks in the new year. So happy Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Thanks for being here. See you.